Hello, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here on NTA Nationwide. I'm Joseph Johnson. Since 1960, Nigeria's efforts to grow its economy through a well-thought-out monetary policy has been a major catalyst in the sustained growth of the economy. Chimaobi Walter Naji, in this special report, looks at monetary policy in Nigeria and its impact on the growth process post-independence.
Country trying its hands at independence for the first time. Teething problems was a common feature in different spheres. However, the journey of monetary policy in Nigeria is one that has evolved through time, with the stability witnessed in the financial sector today. From 1975, the central bank moved from exchange rate targeting to monetary targeting in its quest to control price stability. The 2005 bank consolidation and recapitalization exercise of the Central Bank of Nigeria is believed by experts as responsible for the stability in the banking sector.
Since 1960, we've done two major frameworks of monetary policy. One has been exchange rate targeting, which the bank had adopted between 60 and 74. That made sense at the time because we had just emerged from colonial rule, so it made sense to peg the Nigerian currency to the British pound up to 1967. When the British pound lost value, then the currency had to be pegged to the dollar. Now, from 1975, the central bank switched from exchange rate targeting to monetary, targeting.
Countless economic reforms has been engaged by various governments to better the macroeconomic conditions in the country's real sector. This is why monetary authorities have been in the business of ensuring controlled inflation figures in its management of monetary policy and lending rates to ensure the attainment of macroeconomic goals and create sustainable growth.
Closure was another nice punch on the Nigerian economy, a punch that helped the economy to revive and also boosted the non-oil sector, like I talked about earlier. The closure of the border, as at that point, was important to halt the influx of goods that were banned. Another area that the government has actually really done well in the last 1 year is with monetary policy management. If you look at exchange rate that was pegged at 305 to a dollar last year, was maintained.
Beyond price stability, respondents believe that moving forward, the role of monetary authorities should include primarily employment generation through its interventions.
So at this point in time, we're looking at intervention, we're looking at sustainability. Everything we are talking about now is sustainability and then scalability. So if you talk about intervention in agriculture, it should be data-driven. Being data-driven in the sense that we should actually understand where the issues are, then take those interventions there.
I hope to see the central bank being the major game in town, if I might use that word, play more developmental roles given our situation. So the central bank cannot continue to have monetary targeting as its framework for implementing monetary policy.
As the country looks forward to attaining great economic stability, experts have advocated increased private sector participation and de-risking financing for real sector growth. In Abuja, Chimaobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
As the driver of the economy, the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, no doubt, has equally driven national and economic discourse in almost the entire 6 decades of Nigeria's history. However, from whatever perspective one decides to view the contributions of this sector, a consensus inches on the question if this great asset has been a blessing or a curse, considering the benefits Nigerians have derived from the endowments. Lydia Sampson is on standby with the story of Nigeria and its oil and gas reserves.
The history of Nigeria cannot be told without reference to the discovery of oil. Now, We all know that oil was discovered in 1956 at Olobiri in Niger Delta after half a century of exploration. So the question is, how has the Nigerian oil and gas sector fared in 60 years of Nigeria's existence as an independent nation? The history of oil exploration in Nigeria dates back to 1903, when several exploration attempts failed to find oil in commercial value. But after nearly 50 years of searching for oil in the country, Shell BP discovered oil at Olobiri in Bayelsa State. The first oil field began production in 1958. Since then, some experts said the economy of Nigeria should have experienced a strong boost, with citizens harnessing socio-economic benefits. Others, on the other hand, believe the sector, as the major foreign exchange earner, has done well, but stress that with the needed proper regulation, the sector could have been more viable.
Most countries who found oil and gas now developed what we call, national oil companies, who are the ones that remained with the multi-oil national companies, and the kind of arrangements we got. Most other countries now had an exit program to say, okay, you could maintain this your national or multinational approach, but after some certain time, you were going to be exiting.
Government is not resting on its oars to reposition the sector with various ongoing reforms and policies. Already, government, having realized the enormous gas resources, declared Nigeria more of a gas nation, with ongoing efforts to deepen gas utilization.
What we are trying to do is to get our people to use CNG and LPG more than they are using it now. We are one of the lowest. We have one of the lowest penetration, even in Africa.
It is the realization that we shouldn't be doing this in the short term, because Mr. President is very clear about his concern for the ordinary people. There's a desire to make sure that value is delivered to this country and to the ordinary people in particular. There's a desire to deliver on infrastructure, medical services, education, and so many things that we're all aware of. He's very passionate about it. But you can't do this if you don't have the right resources.
A major government policy is the introduction of local content, enabling indigenous companies critical participation.
This project has been on the drawing board since 2008-2009. He made it happen. What he shows clearly is the dedication he has to development of local content and local capacity.
Deregulation of the downstream has been a controversial but necessary policy long on the drawing board. Due to dwindling resources, government took the bold step to allow market forces determine petrol pump price.
You will see that pretty soon people will begin to enjoy cheaper energy, oil and gas. The gas sector is about to blossom, and it will change the narrative.
Various stakeholders have made it clear that from the physical point of view, subsidizing petrol is no longer sustainable for government. While calling for patience and understanding, key players are optimistic that with the deregulation, Nigeria's oil and gas sector will start another phase of viability that will not just attract investors, but create massive employment across the value chains. In Abuja, Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Turning to the health sector now, which of course is an important part of national security. Not only does it function to provide adequate and timely medical care, but gives room for the tracking, monitoring and controlling of disease outbreak. As Nigeria marks its diamond anniversary, Basi Taikbang takes a look at the health sector's notable milestones, challenges and prospects.
Western medicine was not formally introduced into Nigeria until 1960, when the Sacred Heart Hospital was established by Roman Catholic missionaries in Abuja. They were of such high quality that, by independence in 1960, missionary-owned hospitals were more than those owned by government. 150 years of the introduction of Western medicine in Nigeria, the nation's healthcare service has been characterized by short-term planning. To ensure a functional healthcare system, the present government has in the last 4 years committed huge resources into the sector.
Since the president came in, there's been a lot of improvement. A lot has been achieved in reorganizing and planning for the health sector.
Many presidents had actually promised not to hand over a polio endemic country to the next subsequent president, but only President Muhammadu Buhari has been able to achieve that.
On the HIV sector, we've now, reached a stage where we can say we are on course to controlling HIV epidemic in Nigeria.
Health security is one area that has impacted positively on the country's disease control strategies. Worthy of mention is a success story in the Ebola virus disease, the eradication of wild polio virus, and the remarkable national response to the ongoing global coronavirus pandemic.
So we here are watching our own systems closely and watching what is happening abroad to learn lessons from all sides in building, first of all, our response to public health, and secondly, our health institutions, and particularly the organization.
To strengthen the health system, you can find that unlike a few years ago, 2017 for example, when we had outbreaks of meningitis, we're not seeing those outbreaks that killed a lot of people because we've been able to protect Nigeria.
The National Medical Emergency Service and Ambulance System, arising from the 5% Basic Healthcare Fund, is one of the federal government efforts with great prospect of making healthcare services more accessible and affordable to Nigerians.
Through a number, 112, which we are working with National Communication Commission to establish, and then an ambulance will come to the person's house or to the scene of where they are needed, render first aid, and then take them to a hospital where they will get first aid. All of this without payment.
A turning point in the country's response to HIV and AIDS was the conduct and presentation of the Nigeria's AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey. But the big question is sustainability.
How do we sustain the response? We have come up with strategies on our own. It is very likely that new HIV infection will be reduced to the BRS minimum, and death from HIV will also be curtailed, reduced to the BRS minimum, and that is the goal. Achieving epidemic control is nothing but, controlling these two parameters.
Watch out for the country's journey in the areas of tertiary care and efforts at sustainable healthcare financing towards universal health coverage in the concluding parts of this report. Basi Taikban, NTA News.
In the meantime, during the pre-colonial era, Nigeria's inland waterways served as a transit for trade and missionary activities, later culminating in the entrenchment of education to every part of the country. The waterway was the vehicle for the development of modern-day Nigeria. As Nigeria celebrates its 60th anniversary, Charles Alpha takes us through the journey of the evolution of the waterways.
The waterways pre-independence era served as a starting point for the colonial government's investment into the development of transport infrastructure and a major channel for commerce and industry. The rivers in Nigeria were the main route from the coast into hinterlands. Movements of cargoes and vessels in and out of local communities were through the various water channels. Modern-day Nigeria's inland waterways has evolved since independence, currently spanning well over 10,000 kilometers of access waters to about 28 states, with possibility for additional linkages to other states.
Okay, so you found out that there was active use of our waterways pre-independence. It played quite a significant role because as at then, we didn't have as much roads as we have today. As at then, we didn't have as much railways as we have today. As at then, flights were very limited because we had very few airports.
From 1960 to date, there has been massive expansion of the waterways and links across riverine communities with the establishment of Onitsha River Port, Warri, Barrow, Marina, Badagry, Lagos, among many others under construction. Presently, the focus of Nigeria Inland Waterways Authority is to make all year-round navigation a reality, to create a world-class marina, to maximize revenue and not compromise its social responsibilities.
We want to move cargo from Lagos to Port Harcourt, Lagos to Warri, Lagos to One to Onitsha to Lokoja, Baro, and things. We want to achieve this because we believe very strongly that it will play quite a key role in strengthening our economy.
Moghalu acknowledged that the country under the watch of President Muhammadu Buhari has made giant strides in all fronts of its affairs, especially the quantum leap in the nation's inland waterways. The MD reckons that patience and commitment to the fatherland will go a long way in realizing the nation's lofty goals.
My personal excitement is that we hit 60 years under a focused leadership, under a determined leader. For 60 years, we've done quite well. That we have a united country. It's a major achievement.
The managing director of NIWA, George Moghalu, believes so much has been accomplished and Nigerians can hope for a better nation, but through relentless prayers and patriotism despite the challenges. In Lokoja, Kogi State, Charles Alpha, NTA News.
As Nigerians celebrate the Diamond Jubilee of the nation, some residents of the FCT took out time to pray for the nation and thank God for the successes recorded over the years. Though the nation is faced with myriads of challenges, the patriots believe commitment, faith and hope in the great potentials abounding in the nation will go a long way in actualizing the desired transformation in all sectors.
After return to this nation again, may joy return to this nation again. May celebrations return to this nation again. In the mighty name of Jesus.
We thank God there have been some progress. So what we need is to tolerate each other, appreciate each other, and believe in the spirit of togetherness as a teamwork for a nation.
The resident pastor of the Citizens Church also called for a change of mindset and attitude towards government assets and citizens-driven project aimed at making lives comfortable. They also charged the government to intensify efforts in curbing banditry and insurgency. It's now time to join our Lagos Network Center, and the critical role of the media in attainment and sustenance of nationhood is on review. Awal will tell us more.
Thank you, Joseph. The history of Nigeria's struggle to independence would be grossly deficient without correctly situating the media, which has played a significant role in the attainment of nationhood. Dr. Oguyemi chronicles the impact of the media from the view of veterans and practicing journalists.
Although mass media started out in Nigeria in 1859, way before the nation gained its independence, with the publication of Iwe Iroyin, the impact and role of the media in attainment and sustenance of nationhood has been a tale of many roads. The Nigerian media was instrumental in the struggle for independence in 1960, the transfer from military to democratic rule in 1999. Media has also been in the forefront of championing the socio-economic heritage of the country for national unity since independence till date.
The media was in the forefront of the independence. So it was the media itself that they used to fight the war of independence, to secure independence for Nigeria. And even after independence, from the first military coup to the present day democracy, there's nothing you can do without the media.
Media plays a very strong role in the information, education, and also in reshaping the orientation and ideology of the people.
Media is so sensitive to the extent that the information sent to the public has positive and negative effects on the society.
As the country celebrates our 60th independence anniversary under the new normal, the advent and embrace of social media to the list of traditional media experts believe has broadened the scope of information dissemination and the role of the media, which has improved the pace of administration of justice in the country. In Lagos, Dotun Okunyemi, NTA News.
Lagos residents, most especially small and medium-scale entrepreneurs, have commended President Muhammadu Buhari for ensuring that their businesses did not suffer from the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy. Nusa Osula, who spoke with beneficiaries of the Survival Fund, reports that they urged other residents to register for the program so they too can benefit from the fund.
The coronavirus pandemic has so far had a significant adverse impact on the global economy. Governments around the world are implementing various physical measures to mitigate the adverse effect and provide relief for businesses and households. Government had earlier concluded arrangements to share about 300 million naira under the National Medium, Small and Micro Enterprises Survival Fund scheme to about 333,000 artisans and transporters as part of measures to commemorate Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary on the 1st of October. Beneficiaries of the fund in Lagos State have this to say.
For government to say, look, we need to jumpstart the economy. We need to help those whose business were affected by the impact of COVID-19. Kudos to them.
Very good gesture from the government, because nobody expected anything of such. And since it comes, we have to appreciate it. We also appreciate if they can do more, because if they can create more awareness.
I really give kudos to the government that enable the artisans to have this opportunity.
The Survival Fund is a conditional grant to support vulnerable micro and small enterprises in meeting their payroll obligations and safeguard jobs from the shock of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
You're watching NTA Nationwide. Time for a break. Don't go away.
You're still watching NTA Nationwide with me, Joseph Johnson, and we are back in Abuja. The Court of Appeal Abuja Division has overturned the nullification of Doye Diri's election as Bayelsa governor by the Governorship Tribunal. This was the unanimous decision of the 5-man panel of justices who presided over the appeals filed by the governor, PDP and INEC. Austin Ayebe reports.
In a unanimous judgment, the 5-man panel of the Court of Appeal said the Advanced Nigeria Democratic Party failed woefully to prove that it had a valid candidate that was unlawfully excluded by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). The court held that the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Bayelsa State ignored the fact that the petition of the ANDP was status barred, in addition to the fact that the party presented an unqualified candidate to the Independent National Electoral Commission in the November 16, 2019 governorship election, and consequently affirmed the victory of Doye Diri as the duly elected governor of the state.
This judgment has restored hope in our electoral process and in our growing democracy.
The man who said he was excluded was not unlawfully excluded because he was not qualified to have contested the election in the first instance.
We are going to look into the appeal against the judgment.
It will be recalled that a 3-man panel of the tribunal had dismissed in August 2020 the election of Governor Doye Diri and ordered INEC to conduct a fresh election within 90 days for excluding the Advanced Nigerian Democratic Party (ANDP) from participating in the November poll. In Abuja, Austin Ayebe, NTA News.
As the electorate count down to October 10 governorship election in Ondo State, the police have warned political folks and supporters of governorship candidates who have intentions of causing trouble to steer clear of the state or risk the consequences. The warning is coming against the background of cases of violence caused by some alleged political thugs in some parts of the state during the ongoing electioneering campaigns. Bukola Oduo reports.
As the October 10 governorship poll in Ondo State to elect the next occupant of Alagbaka Government House beckons, governorship candidates are not leaving any stone unturned in soliciting votes from the electorate through various means, especially open-air campaigns. However, there have been pockets of violence recorded in some parts of the state during these campaigns. The most recent was the bloody clash by some alleged political thugs at Ipele, our local government area of the state, where innocent people were injured and properties destroyed.
We've arrested some people in respect of that fracas that happened at Ipele, and I think that's already in the court. We intend to do more until we achieve the desired peace for the election that the police and everyone is looking forward for.
Some of the victims of this unfortunate incident are now receiving treatment at the Federal Medical Center, Owo. Political experts who described political violence as hindrance to the electoral process called for prompt intervention to stop the trend and bring perpetrators to justice to serve as deterrent to those using the weapon of violence to advance their political ambition.
What politicians should dissipate their energy on is to woo voters, is to sell themselves, sell their manifestos to voters. Any politician, any party that is engaged in violence is already defeated, within itself.
Nobody should allow his or herself to be influenced or be used as tools in the hand of politicians for violence. We should maintain peace.
Stakeholders also want government, political parties, the police and the electorate to be vigilant, especially in the last few days preceding the election, to keep the current political tension in the state from further escalating. In Akure, Olubukola Aduwo, NTA News.
Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State has commended the federal government's counter-banditry and insurgency efforts as it calls for the deployment of ICT in the fight against all criminal elements in Nigeria. Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad reports that Governor Tambuwal made the commendation in Bauchi shortly after a closed-door meeting with Governor Bala Muhammad, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Uche Secondus, and some party stalwarts.
Calling on Mr. President to consider seriously employing more hands, capable, qualified, competent hands. We have several unemployed youth in Nigeria that are patriotic enough, that are competent and qualified to be enlisted in either of the services of the security apparatus that we have in Nigeria.
Although not made public, details of the discussions held behind closed doors, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Uche Secondus, noted that it was a solidarity visit to Governor Bala Muhammad.
This party is very democratic. There is no room for discrimination. Everyone is qualified, both young, old, governors, non-governors is qualified to contest. And we have the space for everyone.
Those in the entourage include the Deputy National Chairman North of the People's Democratic Party, Suleiman Nazif, former Senate President David Mark, and former Governor of Gombe State, Ibrahim Nkombo, amongst other chieftains of the party. In Bauchi, Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad, NTA News.
Since organized labor reasoned with the imperatives of fuel price adjustment last week and took the path of sense in opening further window of dialogue on the service-based electricity tariff, some groups of Nigerians have been disgruntled. A statement by the special advisor to the President's Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says those interest groups had apparently perfected plans to use the strike by the labor unions as smoke screen to unleash anarchy on the land, fomenting mayhem and civil disobedience. But the plan blew up in their faces, and they have been in severe pains since then. They have launched a series of tirades against organized labor. For some others, bitter enders who have remained entrenched in pre-2015 and 2019 elections mode, it was opportunity to avenge the 2012 Occupy Nigeria protests, which they believe largely devalued the government of the day and led to its eventual ouster in 2015. The strike that was to have come up last week, they wanted to use as opportunity for a pound of flesh, which they calculated would weaken the government so much and influence the 2023 elections for them. They have since then been calling organized labor all sorts of names, claiming they deceived Nigerians, the times in which age we live with severe security, economic and social challenges call for all hands to be on deck and goodwill and support for government as it strives to put the nation on an even keel. We commend organized labor for putting the country first. In furtherance of the ongoing carrot and stick approach to achieving lasting peace in Zamfara State, Governor Bello Mohammed has facilitated the rescue of 11 kidnapped persons from bandits without payment of ransom. This is coming at a time when the governor summoned a stakeholders meeting to discuss further avenues of achieving peace without bloodshed in the state. The victims, comprising 8 men, 2 women and a baby, are from various states, which include Bauchi, Niger, Sokoto, Sokoto and Zamfara. The victims, most of whom had been in captivity for more than 4 weeks, expressed delight and gratitude to Almighty Allah for regaining their freedom. Zamfara State Governor Bello Mohammed, who received them at the government house, Gusau, said his administration will not rest on its oars until lasting peace is achieved in all parts of the state. He directed that the victims be taken to the hospital for medical checkup before they are finally released to their respective families. Governor Lalong plants trees to mark 60th independence. This and more with Zenret in Jos Network Center. Hello, Zenret.
And thank you for joining us in Jos. From pre-colonial times to the early 21st century, the role and status of women in Nigeria have continuously evolved with responsibility towards nation building. As Nigeria celebrates 60 years of independence, there is a louder call by women for the atmosphere of more enabling environment for their voices to be heard. Felicia Daliop Samela brings us the role of women in nation building 60 years down the lane.
Nigerian women are said to be active participants in all stages of the country's development, with the likes of Queen Amina of Zauzau, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, and Hajia Gambo Sawaba, who made tremendous impact during the pre-independence era and surmounted many obstacles which today stand as unforgettable legacy for Nigeria. The aforementioned contribution has today gained momentum with policies and more women as key players in the sustenance of the country's developmental strides. Nigeria, 60 years together, cannot therefore be complete without celebrating the efforts and contribution of women to the nation.
The performance of any woman holding a political office cannot be compared with that of a man.
Dark history cannot be written without Okoyili. Okwesi, education went very far with her. Now we're talking about Okonjo-Iweala.
Without the Nigerian woman, I'm just wondering whether we would have been where we are today.
Women have worked hard in the human rights section.
Despite the enormous achievements by women, there are existing constraints limiting their potential, which they say needs to be redressed as the country celebrates 60 years of independence.
We are not saying give us 50%, no. We are asking for just 1/3, and you will see how this country will turn around.
To all the women working hard for Nigeria, there is light at the end of the tunnel. In Jos, Felicia Daliop Samaila, NTA News.
The youths are said to be the backbone of growing nation as they utilize their creativity, energy and dynamic to push for social change, as done by the founding fathers of Nigeria, who were mostly youths. As Nigeria celebrates its 60th year of independence, the focus is on the Nigerian youth drawing strength from the past to chart a path for the future. A Cameron Kanangladoja reports.
The Nigerian youth has been the firebrand tool of nation building in the past 60 years. The power of the Nigerian youth has been reflected in the areas of sports, science and technology, the economy, as well as entertainment. And they've been doing all of that with the hope of creating a Nigerian dream for the present and future generation.
It's very obvious that the bulk of the workforce in this country is in the youth constituency, because close to 65% of the entire population of every given society, Nigeria inclusive, is in the youth constituency.
When you look at the age bracket of people who worked so hard, a 29-year-old Anahoro will look at the whole country and say, it's time. But unfortunately, we had lost that zest.
Yakubu Gowon, by setting up the National Youth Service Corps in 1973, it was to ensure the social integration of all the regions of Nigeria that coming out of the war.
Despite the challenges faced by the youths, their resilience, youth development advocates say, is laudable as they push for inclusion, especially in the area of policy formulation.
Don't forget that in Nigeria, the female youth is even far behind the male youth. So if the male youth has achieved 40% success, you can imagine that the female youth are dragging or lagging behind.
We need to disease as young people from any acts of violence, any acts that promote hate and division.
In Jos, NTA News.
Governor Simon Lalong has reiterated his administration's desire in taking urgent steps towards tackling the challenge of deforestation and encouraging the habit of tree planting to safeguard the environment against climate change. This was at the symbolic tree planting exercise by Plateau State Government in collaboration with the NASCO Green Renaissance Africa to mark the Independence Day celebration. Priscilla Grumnan reports.
Planting, which is a symbolic part of activities to mark Nigeria's Diamond Independence Anniversary, is to add color to the Jos Polo field and promote the ecosystem as well.
Desertification and climate change are a big deal, and they're affecting Nigeria. And trees are one of the greatest barriers to erosion. Trees prevent erosion.
Governor Simon Lalong said deforestation has taken a negative toll on the environment, and so all hands must be on deck to stop such practices, and commended NASCO group of companies for the initiative.
We need to take urgent efforts as the one we are doing here to ensure that we discourage cutting down of trees. We must also encourage the habit of tree planting, particularly among our children.
The governor said his government will continue to support the game of polo and disclosed that plans are on the way to relocate the Polo Trade Fairground to a permanent site.
When we move our trade fair to a permanent site, that is when we will help you redevelop this place.
Governor Lalong was then invested as the grand patron of the Jos Polo Club. In Jos, Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
That's it from Jos. Joseph, it's back to you.
Zenred from our Jos Network Center there. To the National Assembly, where the National Assembly Service Commission has confirmed the appointment of Ojo Amos Olatunde as Clerk of the National Assembly. In a statement by the Executive Chairman of the Commission, Ahmed Kadi Amshi, Dauda Ibrahim El Ladan has also been confirmed as the Clerk to the Senate, as well as other top management staff of the National Assembly Service appointed on that's 30th September 2020. The Commission also appointed Francis Chinedu as the substantive clerk of the House of Representatives with effect from 25th November 2020. And the House of Representatives Committee on Narcotic Drugs says it will soon sponsor a bill for the amendment of the Police Trust Fund Act to accommodate the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency for it to effectively tackle narcotic drugs and related crimes in Nigeria. Chairman of the committee, Francis Agbo, made this known at a meeting with stakeholders in Abuja on the theme Drug Abuse and Rape, the road not taken. John Yako reports.
Crimes such as rape, banditry, robbery, cultism and terrorism, among others, are said to be narcotic drug induced,
which has the propensity of driving its users to unethical and uncontrolled negative behavior in the society,
which is certainly jeopardizing the future of our youths and increasingly attracting global embarrassment to Nigeria.
The most important issue at this meeting here is how to kill the monster that triggers rape and other vices in the society.
Anti-drug lectures should form part of our school curriculum. When you keep shanties in some areas, is a fertile ground for drug to grow.
I want to appeal to the Senate and the House Committee to please see how they can expand the budget of NDLA and police in particular.
Chairman of the committee, who acknowledged rising cases of drug-induced crimes across the world, including Nigeria, says this must be arrested before it consumes the nation. To achieve this, he says, the committee is coming up with a bill to give NDLEA more capacity to tackle the war against narcotic drugs, to reduce rape and other crimes in the country.
We want that police trust fund to be changed to policing trust fund, because the responsibilities of the NDLEA is almost like that of the police. They arrest, they prosecute.
Mr. President, Muhammad Buhari has started by in trenches, 3 trenches, giving us the ability to recruit 5,000 personnel in each trench.
This, he hopes, will be done before the end of the 9th Assembly. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed concern over young Nigerians being indiscriminately brutalized by men of the Nigerian police force, especially the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and those in other tactical units. Speaking to newsmen today at the presidential villa in Abuja, the Vice President described these actions as totally objectionable and unacceptable, assuring Nigerians that a reform in the police force to curb these excesses is in the offing.
These are individuals who are meant to protect Nigerians. You know, they arrest and they arrest maiming, killing of young people, of anyone at all. You know, by these same individuals is completely wrong. It is unlawful, it is illegal, and anybody, all of those who are involved in this, ought to be investigated and prosecuted. Now, I'm sure today, this afternoon, I had a meeting with the IG of police. We reviewed several of these issues. The president and I have had discussions on this. He's very, very concerned about it. Wants to see a reform of this process. And I'm sure that you are probably aware that the police have issued a statement. The IG has issued a statement looking at all these various issues. In particular, you know, warning against the use of these tactical forces, such as SARS, for purposes of doing anything other than anti-robbery as it's supposed to be. I mean, for example, and I think in the statement it specifically said that you cannot have a situation where SARS say they're investigating cybercrime and arresting people, young men and women who are carrying laptops and carrying on their phones. You know, cybercrime is an electronic crime. There's no way that you can investigate that by seizing people's phones in a taxi or in their cars. So I think it's very obvious that this is a major concern. A few bad eggs within the police force are causing a lot of these, and because it's all over the place in different states, there's a need, of course, to take serious action. I think that the IG statement today is a good first step.
State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that Vice President Osinbajo commends the civil society organizations for bringing these attacks on Nigerians to the attention of the federal government and urges them to continue working with government in order to make the nation a better place. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has banned the personnel of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad and other tactical squads of the force, including the Special Tactical Squad, Intelligence Response Team, Anti-Cultism Squad and other tactical squads operating at the federal, zonal and command levels from carrying out routine patrols and other conventional low-risk stop and search duties, checkpoints, mounting of roadblocks, traffic checks with immediate effect. A statement by the force indicates that no personnel of the force is authorized to embark on patrols or tactical assignments in Mufti. The IGP's directives come against the backdrop of findings by the leadership of the force that a few personnel of the tactical squads hide under the guise to perpetrate all forms of illegality contrary to the standard operating procedure, code of conduct and rules of engagement establishing the squads. IGP has warned the tactical squads against the invasion of the privacy of citizens, particularly those indiscriminate and unauthorized search of mobile phones, laptops and other smart devices. They are to concentrate and respond only to cases of armed robbery, kidnapping and other violent crimes when the need arises. The IGP has equally warned that henceforth the Commissioner of Police in charge of FSARS, Commissioners of Police in charge of state commands and the FCT, as well as those their supervisory zonal assistant inspectors general of police, will be held liable for any misconduct within their area of responsibility. Let's now join Kemi in our Ibadan Network Center on preparations ahead of school's resumption and more from that axis. Kemi, you're on.
Thank you, Joseph, and welcome to Ibadan. Preparation for school's resumption in Kwara State is in top gear as stakeholders are putting necessary measures in place to ensure the protection of both students and staff from contracting COVID-19. Aisha Babakar Yahya reports.
Nana Aisha Jida is a GSS2 student who received the news of school resumption with joy.
I'll see my friends again and I'll learn more.
Parents are already buying school writing materials ahead of the October 5th resumption date.
They've put our mind at peace that they will observe all the preventive measures to ensure that there won't be infection and transmission among the students.
The Director of Quality Assurance Bureau, Kwara State Ministry of Education, Human Capital Development, Comfort Abioye, says all angles have been covered to ensure a successful resumption.
Whether private or public, they have been told that they should not collect third-term fee. And by God's grace, when they resume Monday, we shall set out to still monitor them.
The Honorable Commissioner deemed it fit to see all the principals of public and private schools to discuss more on what is expected of them at the inception of the school come October 5.
By the position of the government, thinking it is high time for them to reopen the school, I think we have no objection to that as far as the teachers of this state is concerned.
Schools have been ordered shut since 23rd March following the outbreak of COVID-19. Aisha Abubakar Yahaya, NTA News.
And that's all we can take from my Ibadan Network Center. Let's take some messages though. We are back shortly. Let's now join Amina in Enugu for a report.
Hello Joseph, good evening and welcome to Enugu. With over 110 tourist sites scattered across the state, Enugu State is being described as Nigeria's next tourist destination, which if properly explored will provide the needed pathway to Nigeria's post-COVID-19 economic recovery and diversification plan of the current administration. Jude Abugu, who examined the tourism potentials of the state, reports that the state is already collaborating with the federal government and the private investors to harness the abundant touristic potentials found in the state.
With attention shifting from oil to non-oil sources of revenue in the country, Nigeria's tourism industry is one sector that tourism enthusiasts and key players believe has huge potentials for a great turnaround in Nigeria's economic fortunes. In Enugu State alone, there are over 100 tourism sites which, if adequately invested in, can generate about 100 million naira in annual revenue for Nigeria and the state. Notable among them are Dinike Lake, Opi Lake, Milliken Hills, Nguo Pine Forest, Ohon Waterfalls, Ogu Lake, Ezimo Waterfalls, the coal mine sites, Henneken Lake, Isuawa Caves, and the Ezago Tourism Complex.
That's a 3-in-1 complex. We have the cave there, we have the lake, and we have the waterfall. We have Nike Lake Resort. It's an old resort for entertainment and for refreshment. And government is working towards revitalizing that resort.
One unique thing about this spring water at Ezago Tourism Complex is that it produces both warm and cold water. And this is the intersection where the warm and cold water meet. Having these natural endowments is one thing. Harnessing and showcasing them to the world to attract investment and tourists is another, especially now that development of rural communities with tourist attractions is at the heart of tourism development.
We have to put our assets in order before we invite the internationals to come and see what we have. And so domestic tourism is our focus. We are ready to promote domestic tourism.
The state is also naturally endowed with beautiful topographies and landmarks, caves, hills, valleys and contours around the Udi, Ogo and Nsuka hills with peaceful and serene atmosphere as well as a booming hospitality industry.
And by the grace of God, the state government has made these conditions attractive for tourism development.
The cultural festivals, masquerades, traditional dances and local delicacies are equally good tourist attractions. In Enugu, Jude Abugu, NTA News.
That's it from here. It's back to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Mina. And that's Nationwide for today. Thank you very much indeed for being a part of it. I'm Joseph Johnson. Enjoy the rest of your day.